That's important.
Supporters, club members, track and field fans. This is Let'sRun.com co-founder Robert Johnson, and welcoming you to Let's Run After Dark live version from Philadelphia with the Supporters Club member Ross McGowan.
Hello.
Amazing. Plus another Supporters Club member hiding in the corner. Do you want your name revealed? No. He's about to start his job at a famous publication called the New York Times. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to be breaking down Grand Slam track day one of Philadelphia. Sorry for the delay. We were true or false. I've been mobbed by people.
This was a surprise. We went to a bar. Just to grab a drink, loosen up before the show. And Robert didn't even make it 10 feet before two completely different people walked up to him and said he's a big fan. I was like, what is going on?
But there's a lot of track fans in Philadelphia. I'm not lying. In the last couple hours, between me getting out of the car and getting to the stadium, I had more people recognize me, come up to me than I have in 12 years in Baltimore. People are like, Robert, let's run Grand Slam track. The theme of this show says Grand Slam track finally found its footing. There was a buzz. There was a nice crowd. The weather could have been better, but could have been worse.
It's not their fault. That's not their fault.
And, we had some amazing performances. Well,
good performances.
We had some amazing dominant victories.
Yes.
But has Grand Slam track found its footing? And then, despite the fact that actually a lot of these races were blowouts, Marco Arop bossed everybody in the 800, 143 negative split. What does this mean for Josh Hoey? What does this mean for Hobbs Kessler, Cole Hawker, here, Nagoose, Josh Kerr? We'll break into that. Kenny Bednarek. I don't think I've ever seen a Pro 800, Pro 200 where someone's won by 0.55 of a second.
Yeah.
I mean, Usain Bolt didn't do that. Totally dominant. We had a sub four
entertaining women's 1500. Yes. That was one of the better events of the day for sure.
We had some terrible performances. People for not finishing the 1500. What's up with that? When the thrilling women's 3000, an American actually did well in that. We'll break it all down for you.
We had Sydney McLaughlin get fifth place in the 100-meter hurdles. That was interesting.
All right, but let's talk about the meet as a whole. I mean, you drove in from Pittsburgh. You brought your wife, your two kids, your high school buddies here. I had my Ethiopian buddy driving up from DC. I met a Let's Run guy from South Carolina. Trying to get a hotel. I was like, all the hotels within 2 miles of the stadium are sold out. I don't think the hotels are sold out because of the track meet, but it kind of made me thought, is this going to be a big crowd? And just getting near the stadium, I was a little bit late. I could hear people cheering, a loud noise. I'm like, this seems kind of big. What's going on? I was in the bowels of the stadium actually when the men's 800 went off. I had to watch it on my phone. But as a spectator, what did you think? Did it feel like you've been to a lot of sporting events?
Yes. Yeah. Pittsburgh Penguins season ticket holder. No, I thought it was great. Like in terms of certainly compared to the previous meets, right? In Jamaica, largely empty stadium. And then in Florida, which was full but small stadium, is that right away you get to Franklin Field and there's kind of lines of people waiting to get in. And the tickets were general admission, basically, right? Except for a couple premium sections. And we get in and expecting to sit kind of like near the finish line on the home stretch. And we got in 20 minutes before the start of the meet. The home stretch is largely full. So we took a seat on the back stretch right by the 200 mark. That was largely full too. So the atmosphere is very good. Pretty much the crowd was in it the whole time. I think one of the changes from last time is they tightened the timing a little bit. So there wasn't a lot of dead time between events. And the crowd was there. They were locked in the whole time. People were cheering. We got to say, this was a good atmosphere. The best, I have to think, by far, of the 3 Grand Slam track meets so far.
Yeah, I felt like a real sporting event. It was positive. The lower bowl looked full. I mean, the end zone was not full, but
that was weird. It seemed like that was deliberately blocked off, which I'm sure people would have wanted to sit there. We would have considered sitting there because you'd have the straight view of the full home straight, but that seemed blocked off. But both straightaways largely entirely full.
They're close to following the Robert Johnson idea of just put all the fans close together, make it look sold out, and then tarp off the rest because you want it to look good on TV. I felt like I'm going to give them a B on that. They had a huge tarp in the middle of the infield, which makes no sense to me. They should put this tarp actually on the upper deck. Obviously, the upper deck was totally empty. Look, in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to be negative, you say, what was there, 12,000 fans? I have no idea.
It had to have been more than that. If they give those old numbers for the old Hayward Field, which like could not have been bigger grandstand wise than this, I bet there were 15,000 people.
Okay. I would like to know, but I don't think it's some massive amount. And, as my brother said, well, with all the stars, could the U.S. get 4 meets a year with 12,000 fans, 15,000 fans? Yes, that should happen.
Yeah.
But we're glad it did. So I'm going to give them an A. Like, I thought it was a good atmosphere. This is what the first meet should have been.
Yeah.
When I turned on the broadcast, admittedly, they started the first broadcast in Jamaica an hour before the meet started. I was like, what are we going to get? Because I've been looking at tickets. It looked like it was empty. And it was empty and I was stunned. I've never seen an event that empty. Today, it looked full. When I first got up, I could see across. I looked full. I looked back. It looked full. Admittedly, the end zone was empty and the upper deck was empty. But, hey, much better. And they were selling beer in the stands like a professional sporting event. And they were charging prices. I saw Ross's wife with a beer.
We had some beers. We had a good time. Bud Light. It was good. Again, it felt like a real sporting event, a big time event.
Now, people think I'm a Grand Slam Shark hater, and maybe I should be because I'm trying to pull it up here. Beer, $13 per beer. Ugh. Premium beer, $12.95 and $14.95. I mean, folks,
it was a big time sporting event, apparently.
I mean, they're acting big time by the beer prices. So, anyways, nice atmosphere, nice day. The action starts. Not going to lie. I'm driving. I'm like, I got to get here by the time the men's 800 goes off, which is the third event. There was traffic. They didn't have my credential. Again, I watched 800 on the phone. I missed the hurdles. Nobody cares about hurdles. DeSantos won.
Anna Cockrell won.
The women's
race was good, but, the times weren't remarkable. It was good, but yeah.
But we get to, oh, wow. We're joined by live viewer who's a former Heps champion. Congratulations to Oliver Tassinari. Also joined by a
B-Heat champion at a meet at Penn.
Huge shoe designers on the website live now, right now. I don't know who he's working for. He's got a huge non-compete clause going on right now, but we've got icons of the sport listening live. Anyways,
all right, men's 800.
I was stunned by this race. Yeah. I mean, Weldon and we got the doubling format, and I'm like, well, the doubling format is kind of fun at some level, and they make a big deal of who wins the slam. But I'm like, there's not a lot of overlap. It's almost like 2 races in a lot of these events. And you see it in the 8 and 15. I know, and John Galtzel, John, if you're listening, I apologize. Well, you can't say that because Emmanuel Wanyoni, he won the first 100, 81. I know. Yes, there's a couple of freaks like a Wanyoni that can do it both. But this was a beatdown. Like, Arop, not only did he beat down all the 1,500 meter runners, he killed the 800 meter.
He led the whole thing.
Goes out, not that fast, 52. And, we got Josh Hoey, the world indoor champ. And I was worried about Hoey coming in just because I know John thinks I read too much into the road mile, but he ran like 3:59. He did beat Arop there, but it wasn't a big run. And they were there was some bumping there at one point, like for who's going to get the lead. But Arop just controlled it from the front. And it was just, he goes 52, 51, I guess. 143.3. I mean, dominant. What was the margin of victory in this thing?
It was over a second. Hoey came in at 144.41. So over a second, 1.03.
And then
Yard Ngetich. This is one thing, again, a kind of a positive day for Grand Slam track. With the combined scoring format, I was actually pretty interested in the race for third. And there was a big battle for third between the 1,500 guys, Yard Ngetich winning that, edging out Hobbs Kessler 145.3 to 145.6, but a huge gap. So basically a second between Hoey and Ngetich. So kind of emphasizing what you were starting off saying. It's almost like 2 different races. Hoey kind of in the middle. I think that's interesting. We learned something about Hoey today, right? Like, okay, at an 800 level, definitely better than the 1,500 guys, but definitely not close to the top of the world, at least today.
And then behind them, Kessler 145.6, Kerr 145.8. He ends up being 0.01 ahead of Cole Hawker, which,
maybe will matter depending on how the 1500 shakes out.
The 5th or the 6th. So basically, to win the 100,000, you have to win the 8 or the 15.
Yeah.
So Arop is very, very clear, very aware of that fact. And, I think if Ngetich wins tomorrow in the 15, I think he's probably going to win the 100,000 because I don't think Arop's top 3. But my post-race interview, check it out on YouTube. There's also a thread with Arop was fascinating. He said, I want to not just win races. I want to dominate them. And I said, well, on the domination scale, like, how do you grade yourself? I would give him 10 out of 10.
Mission accomplished.
This was dominant, bossing, embarrassing. I mean, I wouldn't say if it wasn't always first race, I would say embarrassing, honestly. If you think, I'm going to run 141 and compete with these guys, nowhere close. But when Yoni, we should look up to see how far Yoni was behind in Kingston. Was he farther behind than how he was today? Because again,
no, it couldn't have been.
We're 3 months out. But so he said, I'd give myself a 6. That's hard grading. But what was interesting to me was he seemed very confident, quietly confident about his chances tomorrow in the 1500. And normally I make fun of these other journalists because they don't ask journalists, quote unquote, who don't ask like legitimate questions. Like, oh, do you think you can win it? He kind of acted like it wasn't crazy. I think it is crazy, but he's like, I'm getting more and more confident in the 1500. I think in the second race, he was like challenging for the win with 200 meter go. He got over anxious. So I was like, yeah, the smart thing for me, I would tell you to put yourself in like 5th.
Right.
With 200 to go and see if you can kick off people.
Just pick people off.
And if you get 3rd, you're probably winning it. So as long as Ngetich doesn't win, he's probably going to win the 100,000.
Here's one other thing that stands out about to me about the 800 today. So far in Grand Slam track, the 1500 has been the first of the 2 events, and the 1500 guys didn't run that fast in the 8, and you would kind of say like, well, okay, they're doubling back, right? But today they didn't run any faster. I don't think like conditions were great for fast running, but it also wasn't bad, especially for a more distance event. So, they're still just running 145, even slower than I think they did in Florida, right? A little bit slower on the Ngetich side. So I would have expected a little bit faster.
Right?
Yeah,
wasn't Ngetich like 144 high, and then
yeah, I would have expected a little faster out of these guys.
But it's kind of interesting. We're getting the same order, right?
That's true. It was Yard putting himself out there. I mean, Hobbs was actually putting himself like he was more with the leaders on the first lap and everything. But yeah, Yard being more aggressive than Kerr and Hawker throughout the race, and then he basically just maintained that gap the whole way. So it wasn't like there was like some kick that was coming through.
We didn't get big win ratings in the sprints, but I'm just wondering, like, given the margin of victory, I mean, this wasn't Jamaica where it was some win fest, and the fact that Arop is, well, I guess he's basically 2 full seconds ahead of Ngetich.
That's crazy.
But that makes sense. Arop's a 141 guy. They're 144 guys.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't surprise you.
Yeah.
But you see it and you're like, this is like high school versus JV. So congrats to Mr. Arop. At this point, as we got, my shoe designer said, look, the 800, 1500 guys was fun for a while. Now we've seen it, and it's true. I don't really care to see the 1500 meter guys run 800 anymore. They're not competitive. They get destroyed. The big result for me, though, was, and we'll see tomorrow, if it changes in the 1500, it does not matter because I don't care what a 1500 guy can run 800 is. This was disappointing to me for Hobbs Kessler. 145.6. He made the Olympic team in the 800, and he's been training for 2 months. Maybe he's not 800 sharp, but my buddy,
what was his last race? U.S. indoors?
Look, my buddy Chris Weir, college roommate, author of Running That Flows, he's a gambling junkie. He texted, I don't know if this is a private conversation, Ross. Hey, I had a couple of beers. Jorge Torres, who helps represent Hobbs, he's like, yeah. Chris, like, I'm looking for bets. He's like, well, Hobbs is 13-1. That's not a bad odds. Chris is $100 poor right now because of this. So, I mean,
that's a long shot bet. It's a long shot.
Yeah,
the long shot didn't play.
You watched that race today. Does he win that 1 out of 13 times? No, you'd say 1 out of 1,300 times.
Yeah. Okay. You watched that race today. Like, what was Arop's line beforehand? It was like a minus, but not big, right? It should have been minus like 700.
Yeah. I did take a screenshot of some of these odds.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. A lot of these races were not competitive because the Grand Slam, people say I'm a cynic, but they say only the best, only the fastest. Some of the odds in this thing were just there was heavy favorites in at least 50% of the events.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the men's 1500. I wish the event. Like, I'm going. Like,
men's 800. But yeah.
My results on my phone is the up. 100, 200. Should we go in the order that they happen? What order? I guess we're a distance website. Let's do that. Let's just stick with distance first and go to sprints.
The women's 15. That was a good race.
So the women's 1500 was interesting. Jessica Hull, the Olympic medalist, and Jerabe Welteji just got out and started running fast, and they run 3:58. And again, in the 800, it was like Arop and everyone else. It was them too and everyone else. I was stunned. Nikki Hiltz, nowhere to be seen. Addie Wiley, even worse.
Really nowhere to be seen.
So,
after a 157 in Rabat.
Yeah. Well, Welteji runs 3:58 flat. Hull 3:58.36. Hiltz 4 flat. Georgia Hunter Bell, Olympic medalist, 4 flat 0.85. Abikawa 401. Wiley 407. Mary Roth 425. And then Nia Aikens DNF. Like, come on, Nia. Can't you just finish the race unless you're hurt? Like,
so here's my question: didn't she sacrifice all her prize money by not finishing?
No, you just get 0 points.
I think you have to finish.
I do not think that's true. And actually, if you're injured, I know you get paid. So
okay.
But it's interesting. Marion Raw, terrible in the 1500, but she may win the 800. Actually, I'm still would bet on her to win the 800. And Addie Wiley, 6th.
I don't know if I would. Well, maybe I would after all the energy she saved.
So, anyways, they go out. Welteji wins it. If you didn't watch this race and you get a chance to watch this on, YouTube or something, Welteji looks like she's not even. It looks like her face is so calm. It looks like she's not even trying. It looks like she's out in a jog, and Hull is she's always smiling. It's amazing. I see them smile when they run, but she looks like she's working. But Welteji looks like, whatever. And she sat behind her, and dominant win. But 2 seconds at this level is huge, and it just, you look at the results. If you didn't watch it, the top two were just way ahead.
Well, so let me ask you this. So the race, it didn't go out super fast. It went out at like a perfectly respectable pace. I think like 65s. They kind of running at first. Welteji took the lead and was kind of, again, running a good pace, but not pushing it too hard. And then all of a sudden, 700 into the race, Hull made an aggressive move. And that stood out to me at the time of like, why is she doing this? Is she trying to break the field? She's got Welteji leading it for her. Like, you talked to her. Did you ask her about her tactics, like why she made that move?
Yeah. My interview with Hull, please watch it on YouTube. I loved it. 8 minutes, I think. She said for this race, she's like, look, I didn't know what to think of these races. I've been training really well. I'm an Olympic medalist, and I just haven't been getting the results. And she's like, but I realized, like, look, we've been going out in like, I thought she said 55 for the first 300. So we're not doing that. So I wanted like a decent start. And she's like, I realized Welteji wanted the same thing. So I'm like, and you listen to some of these people, the same thing with Marco Arop. I love to listen to these craftsmen. These are some of the people in the best world, and they're thinking, and they have a game plan. Arop said the same thing. He's like, I wanted, decent pace, but if someone else is going to go out in 49, I'm going to let them do it. So he's just like, I just wanted, 52. He didn't want to go 55. And that's why he and Hoey had a brief encounter there. She said, I realized Welteji wanted the same thing, so I was willing to let her lead. And the moment I felt that she was slacking, I was going to push.
Okay.
So, that's what happened. She was, happy with it. She seems aware of the fact that her PB, we should actually look up the all-time list.
Hull?
Yeah, I know it's 350.
Yeah.
But she's like, I've got big goals, and it sounds like she wants to PR. Faith Kipyegon, 349.04. Jessica Hull, 350.83. So she's less than 2 seconds away from the world record. I mean, if she PR, she's not running a PR. I'm like, well, if you PR, it could be the world record. And just talking to her about, I had a long talk with her about, what do you think of Faith Kipyegon breaking the world record? Do you think you could break the world record? It's amazing. So listen to the whole YouTube interview. But she basically started by saying that before we could really get into specifics of it, she was just, there was some generic question from someone who doesn't care about the performance side of things. Like, oh, you women love each other. She said, yes, it starts with faith. She's been so generous, so nice. She's so beloved that we all like feel like we're in it together. So that's genuine. It starts with faith. And then as a result, she wants to return the favor to Faith. So I said, well, what do you think of a sub 4? She's like, I was stunned. I guess I shouldn't be stunned. You guys, Supporters Club members, are paying me to hear my expertise. But she's like, well, what do you think? I was like, well, I'm the one that's always saying no chance she's going to break 4. But I kind of downplayed it. I was like, well, I don't think so. I was like, maybe 4.3, 4.4, but like, it seems crazy. It was just a fun conversation. It was the same type of conversation we would have.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, basically when I talked to Hull about it, I said, well, you know, like because she talked about running her own PR. I'm like, if you're on a PR, you're pretty close to a record. She's like, yeah, theoretically, but I'm not. I got to benefit from. She acknowledged the benefit of pacing. I got a perfect trip. I had a pacer for the whole race. Like Faith never gets that. Faith front runs the second half of the race. So she's like, for me to get to the next level, Faith's going to be gone soon. I have to learn to front run. So she's very aware of like, if I'm going to chase world records, you're front running a lot of it. I thought it was very, you know, it's like what a nerd like me who could never break 30 minutes for 10K would do. Not like one of the best video runners of all time would think about. And then, so she was very much aware of that. And I said, well, hey, you know, you talk about PRing, but what if they just said, hey, Jessica, you can run in the race. What would you say? She's like, well, I'd offer to pace it. So she wanted to be a pacer, part of history. And then she's like, seriously, if she, after this race, and she had no doubt that she thought she could go for 1200 at the pace and then see what happens. She's like,
at 4-minute pace.
Yeah. And it was, listen to it. There's some debate whether we're talking about 1200 or 1206. It was very specific. I got a little bit confused.
But she just ran what, 230 for 1,000? This
No,
will be hard.
229.
229. Yeah, it's a it was 229 high, right?
Yeah, she thinks it's not kind of. I don't think she thinks she's going to break 4, but she's like, she has to get an A++ race. You know, 407 with could be 405 with the rabbit the whole way. You get a better race. I think she's in the same ballpark as me, 403. Not going to be 4 minutes, but she's like, I would like to see her. I would be happy to rabbit her, and basically honored to rabbit her to an all women's only world record. I'd like to get that near 4.3. The problem is if she runs 4.3 with male rabbits, it's not going to be the desire for that. But I thought it was cool that she wanted to do that. And then she's like, Faith, if you're watching this interview, I'd love to rabbit you and get all the girls to rabbit you to a sub 8 3,000. So maybe that should be the goal, sub 8 3,000.
That seems attainable for sure.
World records 8:05.
So Beatrice Chabet ran 8:11 just last week.
I don't know if it's
leading a ton.
I'm not sure if it's attainable, but it's conceivable.
Attainable. Okay, because whatever. We're parsing words here.
We should look at the scoring charts.
I don't think a sub 4 mile is realistic at all, unless there's some secret spike, as you've said on the show.
Correct. But it was a fun interview. I just thought, you know, she had an amazing year. She's not getting the result. I mean,
so did she seem disappointed? I think like Jess Hall is an interesting example for how we kind of think of Grand Slam track as a whole, right? Like she's been improving in form, meet by meet, right? Like she was kind of like less competitive early on than I thought. But we wonder with all of these people, think of the 1,500, 800 guys too. Like Cole Hawker has not been performing as well as I would think. But then I'm like, Worlds is 4 months away, 3.5 months away, whatever. Like, so when you hear this from Jess Hull of like, oh, I'm trying new tactics, and you're saying like, oh, she's not disappointed, she tried something new. It's kind of like, well, no one would talk about, you compare this to tennis a lot, right? Grand Slam. No one would be like, oh, I tried a new style in the U.S. Open in tennis and I lost in the semifinals.
Well, that's the problem.
Like, it's just interesting.
If you want to write the negative case of Grand Slam track, okay, yeah. If we get all those track stars to show up in a big city in America, should we get 12? Put one in the Pacific Northwest, one in LA, one in the Northeast, and one in the South. Should we be able to get 10, 12,000 fans, 15,000 fans? Yes. But that's kind of like your average Diamond League meet. Does it make it successful? I don't know. I'm not the money guy.
Yeah.
But, you know.
We had fun.
By the way, I bumped into David Epstein, author today. Used to hang out with him a lot and talk track. He and I both have kids. I haven't seen him probably in 7 or 8 years. Apparently, the guy that's with Michael Johnson, the co-founder, Steve, somebody, he said, oh, he's one of my good friends, Sir David Epstein. So I was pleased by that. But, you know, he was here. He seemed supportive and excited about it. And I've lost my train of thought.
David Epstein's books. Highly recommended.
Yes.
I love
We got to have him
Welteji.
on the podcast. By the way, he's been listening to the podcast recently. He's like, I just started listening to the
I
podcast.
love your books, David.
And he said, I didn't realize until I listened to the podcast how much our sport misses out from having talk radio. So that was a big compliment because I think of the kind of the podcast as like talk radio, and the message board is talk radio. Our sport, I always say our sport doesn't have talk radio. That's what the message board and the podcast are for. So, if you look at Hull in the past, she was fourth of the first 2 Grand Slams. So obviously moving up here was better. I mean, she lost to Hiltz, she lost to Susan Jory, and whatever. I interviewed Nikki Hiltz. They was upbeat about things. To me, this is disappointing. Jonathan Gold sent me a text. I agree. Whenever the pace is honest and fast, she does not do as well. She is good at non-rabbited races. If you had your stereotypical male 1500 that was tactical and championship 350 type race, she'd be right in for the medals. When they run hard from the gun, it's a problem. She acted like 4 flat was fast. I'm like, okay.
Well, given the way it was paced, it was fast because they went out in like 2:10 or something. So, but yeah, fair point. Fair point.
There was a gap. I mean,
you would expect someone who did well in the 800, as Nikki's done in the first 2 meets, winning the first one in Jamaica. You would expect them to do better off of more of a kicking race. It wasn't total kicking because of what we were talking about with.
It also shows the dichotomy between men's and women's running. Like, you don't see elite male 1500 meter runners get dropped. Even when Jakob's running world record pace, there's a line and they're still in it.
Yeah.
And here we had a gap. So
I don't know. We'll see. Nikki could come back tomorrow strong in the 800. So I don't know. Nikki's kind of been one of the MVPs of Grand Slam track so far. A lot of cheers.
No, definitely. So
very popular. I would say the only people who got more cheers than Nikki were Sydney McLaughlin, Gabby Thomas. That might be it. So
I was going to say she's definitely popular, but that would be incorrect. So Nikki's definitely, I'm not going to lie.
Don't drag me into this.
I've noticed that it meets, but I'll call her.
Nikki, very popular. So hats off. Like I said, one of the MVPs at Grand Slam track, given their performances so far.
We apologize that the audio is not up to par, according to Jonathan Gold, but the video. The video.
The video's never been better.
No, he said the video is not up to par. The audio is impeccable.
Is that just because of me?
No, I think it's this shitty
See
camera.
my face.
So, glad you can hear us, Jonathan. Sad that Jonathan's listening to us instead of taking my dating advice on a Saturday night.
Leave me out of that too. What's next?
Look, it is early, and when I read the Philly Inquirer article feature on Hawker from a couple of days ago, it's clear that he's training like he always does.
Like, yeah, sorry,
it doesn't matter. No one's gonna care. Like, it's fun. These are good meets, but we're gonna still remember who wins Worlds. So there you go for the women's 15. Probably one of the more exciting races and one of the only few close races of the day. The Welteji, the whole race was pretty close. Was the women's 3000. Before we get to that, though, I talked to Georgia Hunter-Bell, and it was kind of an interesting interview. She said, "Hey, I want to do all 4 Grand Slams." She really views herself as an 8:15. And she's like, this is perfect for me. I want to do all 4. My coaching staff would not let me. They wanted 2 base phases, blah, blah, blah. You can get the specifics on it. But she's like, I'm like, well, are you thinking of doing like the double? She's like, she went for a step farther. So definitely yes on the 8:15 double. She said the schedule is extremely forgiving this year. And then she said something about possibly only doing the 800. This is an Olympic medalist in the 1500 running only the 800. It seemed weird to me. Like, that seemed very strange to me. But listen to the YouTube interview, see if it's not the case. But she was fine with opening up in 4 flat, which again, we're talking about. I'm watching. Oh, this is a bad for Nikki. Georgia Hunter-Bell was like opening up today in 4 flat and is fine with it. And
Nikki was more relevant in the race than Georgia Bell was.
Yeah, and so again, it's 3 months out from Worlds. Yeah. The women's 3000 was a little bit surprising. Like, honestly, a lot of people are interested in gambling. I was a little bit surprised that Medina Isa was the favorite. Ijegi Itaye had won the first Grand Slam. I figured she should be the favorite here. Agnes Ngetich is a 29-minute woman, 28-minute woman, I believe. Always pushing the pace, but 3,000 is short. This is not a 5,000. I'm like, okay, I go with Taye. And in the end, Isa was nowhere to be seen. She was 7th out of 8th. But Ngetich turned the tables and gets the win and was extremely pumped by it. So she kind of she did all the work and won?
As she should be, because as has been said before, she's the person who got screwed the most by this removal of the 5K. So it's a fair talking point of the 3K, 5K working. Obviously, Grand Slam track themselves concluded, no, it's not. It wasn't Agnes Ngetich's fault with her pushing the pace and running hard all these meets, getting her, big prize money. And it got cut in half. I was very happy to see her win in a slower race too, where she didn't have to work overly hard. So good for you, Agnes Ngetich.
By the way, if you're having trouble with the video quality, that's why you need to join the supporters club. Go to letsrun.com/subscribe. You wouldn't have to be up at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. God, if you're in Europe, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning. If there's anyone European visitors right now, just text in the chat right now. You could just wake up, all the audio issues, it'd be in your podcast feed. Letsrun.com/subscribe. So anyways, Ngetich wins. And then to be honest, this event group has been a disgrace. Like my favorite runner, Japanese record holder in like every event, the woman who races more than anyone in the world, Nozomi Tanaki, has been completely uncompetitive. She's still completely uncompetitive. She runs 8:51, 7th out of 8th today. But she did beat Sige Gabrisalama, who's no slouch, 8th place. But she and Elise Cranny are racers. And I mean, have they finished in the top half in any race? And
this was by far Elise Cranny's best showing.
This is her best showing.
By far.
She's 5th. So she's in the bottom half. But there was basically the whole field was there until 400 to go. But Ngetich wins 8:43, Taye 8:43. And Josette Andrews, she comes in as a racer and runs quite well up front.
She was in there.
I was like, could she possibly win this? And she doesn't.
I was seated near Robbie Andrews.
Really?
He was near us. It was fun to see him cheering for his wife.
Former pin relays legend. And
exactly.
He can't get like
he's sitting with bums like
he's in general admission.
He had some sort of red badge thing, so I think he had some sort of VIP status.
Did you get an autograph for your children or?
It's very no, I did not ask anyone for autographs. The going to the meet, it was fun to see the celebs.
By the way, Ajay
Wilson was very close to us, wearing Eagles hat. Congrats to her for the Super Bowl championship.
Paying general admissions, folks. You're
as
top
far
as
we know. Yeah, that's true.
So, anyways, Josette Andrews. I mean, she's been running great this year. 4:01 at Penn Relays for the win. 8:29 for second in Melrose. I guess that should go in order. 8:29 second in Melrose. 14:44 at the indoor meet in Boston. 4:01 in Philadelphia. Road 5K win in 15:06, and then this. So, I mean, competing for the win with people who've run like what 14 under 14:20 for Taye, and Ngetich has run in the 28s. So I was like, "Were you shocked to be competing with him?" She's like, "Well, I wasn't really ready for this. I thought it was going to just be an 8:20 race, and I was going to try to run that." She hadn't really competed these women with a lot, so she was honest about that. But this is the best shape we've seen her in. She's been. It's just. I don't want to bash her, but she's run. That can't be right. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong person. Do we have this woman? She's 29 years of age. I don't think she's ever made an outdoor team.
No,
she's got to be the fastest American woman to have never made an outdoor team, Worlds or Olympics. We're talking 3:59 for the 1500, 4:20 in the mile, 8:29 for the outdoor 3000, 14:43. So you're running 14:43. You should be making teams, and she's never made one. But I feel like this to me was a big step up. Like I was disappointed with Castro. I want to see him compete and be close. She was close. And I know we've had disappointments at USA's, but she just seemed excited about it. She's going to Rome. And I'm like, okay, what's your PR? She's like 14:43. I'm like, do you think you could skip the 1430s? She's like, well, Dathan certainly thinks I can. So she's just going to get on the chain. And she's like, look, I've never run a 5K where I've been on the line and just like being, pulled to a fast time.
It does seem like this is the best form she's been in since that one great summer she had prior to joining on, where she got third in a Diamond League meet, right? Like she was in there. So this does seem to be her best form. I don't know. She wasn't close to winning, but you compare her to the others in the field. She was in there.
So what year do you think that was?
2022 seems right. That's not looking right. Maybe it's even 2021. This is what you lose with Jonathan not being here. Yeah, look at those times. 2021. Zurich, third.
Yeah.
4 flat.
That's when she's running the 1500, right?
Yeah. Yeah, third at Pre, third at Lausanne, third at Zurich. She was killing it. Kind of had a bad year afterward.
And then was surprising, he went for the 5,000 at the trials.
Went to on. It's obviously been an adjustment. It does seem like she's in her best form since 2021. So that's a good thing.
I mean, 2021, 1451 heading in the trials, 4 flat, and gets 8th in the Olympic trials. It's interesting because I feel like we're seeing it. She's a distance runner. We talked about someone in the chat said Addie Wiley. I think she was the high school record holder in the 1600, I believe. Someone's like, I think this proves she's an 800-meter runner. Andrews was running 4 flat, but they put her in the 5,000. Chris Fox, her coach at the time, I think she's clearly Rich is in the same event. He realizes she's a distance runner. So hopefully, if she somehow runs in the 1420s or even the 1430s and doesn't make the team with as bad as Cranny is looking,
there's no locks. Are there any locks at this point for the 5K?
A lot of injuries and stuff. So
again, it's however many months until the trials, right?
Yeah. So my one buddy in Europe was saying we need to have more consequences for poor performances. His theory was if you're a racer and you finish in the bottom half, you're kicked out of the league for the next meet.
Half these people are like at poverty level. Like there's plenty of consequences to running slow. The sport's brutal.
So
what do they want?
Anyways, so we've gone through all the distances. Is that it?
I think so.
All right, other events. Kenny Bednarek, 0 win, 1995. Just what was interesting to me was the margin of victory. Again, 0.55 of a second. He didn't realize how far ahead he was. But it's not like these names, admittedly, they're not all great 200 runners.
No, but they're not chopped liver.
Zarnell Hughes, Aaron Brown, Andre DeGrasse. I mean, Andre DeGrasse was an Olympic
champion
in this event, right?
In this event. Although, with him, he's kind of like a championship meet guy. So it's not like even when he was like, I don't think anyone was shocked necessarily that he won the Olympic title. Obviously, Noah Lyles was the favorite, but, you probably would have picked him next. Even then, like, it's not like he was killing it on the Diamond League. So anyway.
But just totally dominant. I was still in the... No, actually I was in the mix of... Christian Coleman's father may be listening to this podcast. He's not a Supporters Club member, so unless he's listening live.
Hello, Mr. Coleman.
I can't remember if I was where I was, but I was in the mix zone. They're showing the race, and I go, why do all these broadcasts act like Christian Coleman's a really big deal?
He is a big deal.
He's kind of a big name, but he's not good this year. And he's certainly not good at 200. He just lost to some Japanese guy that ran 10:20 last week.
But what did he get at the trials last year in the 200? He was
the other team, he probably made.
Exactly. So he's relevant. Look, as a fan coming here, I was like, oh, okay, we get to see Christian Coleman. Let's see what he can do. So
Christian Miller, the teenager, went pro at high school, 2073. I mean, he's more of a 100 guy, but we'll see what he does. Again, if they run well in the 100, no one's going to care. No one's going to care.
Yeah.
But that's just 400, Matthew Hudson Smith wins by over a half second. Again, a lot of these races were not that close, 44-51.
Not the best.
Has anyone lost more money? I've been meaning to say this in the podcast. Has anyone lost more money from NIL just being in the last 2 or 3 years than like 5 or 6 years? If NIL existed with Matthew Bowling, I feel like he could have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars as the great white hope at a high school. 110 hurdles.
An NCAA title, be fair.
And what?
He won like the indoor 200 at one point.
God bless him. Big upset in the men's 110 hurdles. Jamal Britt.
That was crazy.
I don't know if I put that interview up. Kind of interesting. Tracksmith Matt Taylor, we love you. My brother's college teammate.
Pittsburgh.
Yep. You know, this guy's not really sponsored by a major shoe company. Runs 13:08. He beats Cordell Tench, who's one of the fastest guys in history. Beats Trey Cunningham. Beats Daniel Roberts. And this is the crazy thing, though. I mean, Grant Holloway's not even here, so you would have had top 5 in the results from the USA. Now, Grant Holloway's got the bye for Worlds, but Jamal said, like, this is basically USA's. This is what I've got to beat. So he's recently switched coaches to Alan Johnson this year. He said, look, I looked up to Alan Johnson as my idol. To be coached by him is incredible. And he's like, it's really hard, though, because he's a perfectionist. He's like, I thought I was a perfectionist about technique. He's like, this guy's crazy. He's like, this is, some people need to be coached hard, because he was like complaining about it, but not really complaining about it, because he just had, I assume this was the biggest victory of his career. I don't know. Again,
it must be the best quality field that he's beaten.
Dos Santos, narrow win in the 400 hurdles, 48-11. There was an upset at women's 200. Olympic champion Gabby Thomas beaten by Melissa Jefferson-Wooden. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden's just been so good.
And she was out front from the start. So it's kind of more of a 100-meter person. She clearly got a better start. Gabby never caught her.
On the YouTube interview, she was like, she's one of those women like reluctantly doing the 200. Still considers herself to be 100, but she realizes she's pretty good at the 200. So
she is pretty good.
Women's 400. I mean, another blowout. Paulino 49-12.
However, with a DQ. Do you know why?
Oh, I did not see the DQ.
Okay, so a friend of ours who we were sitting with, Tim, he noticed that Agnes stepped on the inside of her lane. She like shifted lanes in the last 100 meters. It was bizarre.
So she's running straight. Why?
They're running hard. Exactly. It was a pretty close race. Paulino had it. You know, she was in command, but it was a close race. And for some reason, Agnes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, why is this?
That's what I mean. It was a close race. But she ran on the inside. It was just, I don't know. Maybe she's fatigued.
I'm no fan necessarily of Saweed Agnes. I'll just not say why. But there's some suspicions about her. But that's ridiculous. She was so far ahead of 3rd and 4th. Who cares if she's running in lane 1, was veering in and out? She's not impacting somebody.
Yeah.
You can run outside of your lane. I've looked at the rule book. I'm pretty sure you can run outside your lane as long as you don't impede somebody. So that's ridiculous. John Napolitano, famed photographer John Napolitano, is saying Coleman Mill had to deal with the tight lane in 1 and 2 at Franklin Field. Yeah, they had to deal with the tight lane in 1 and 2 because no one knew they were going to do anything in the 200 anyways. So
yeah, but like Coleman's start was fine. I don't know. I don't think it added a half second to his time.
I somehow kind of just didn't pay attention to the women's 100 hurdles. Kira Nugent wins at 12:44. I forgot Sydney McLaughlin. Yeah, was even in the.
We got to watch Sydney McLaughlin practice.
She was 5th place, 12:70. You know, and John Galt told me that he found this to be more interesting. Some people are debating on my chat list that Sydney can beat these girls on a flat 100. I don't think so at all. I just think this is ludicrous, and her running this event group is a joke. We'll see in the flat 100.
I think I was interested going in, like as a fan, like, oh, but yeah, okay.
But wouldn't she be better? Well, I guess she's a pretty good hurdler. Wouldn't she be better if the hurdles in the flat?
I would think so. One thing that stood out, not a huge shock, she got left behind at the start. Like, which, you know, these women whose livelihood is 100 hurdles, of course, they're going to get out of the blocks harder than a 400 hurdler. So I don't know. Yeah, it kind of, again, like what's going on here with the group? They paid her $1 zillion to do practice. I wish I had got to see her do the 200, 400. That's the most interesting thing for Sydney for me.
All right, day 2. What are you most looking forward to? Men's 1500.
Of course.
What do we? I guess. So when Yoni won the first, who was second in that first one? Was it Nagus?
It was. Yeah, I think it was Nagus. Kerr was there. Like it was a battle between all of them. Yeah.
And then
obviously, so you seem pretty disappointed in Hobbs. I think you're being.
But again, it's almost like get out of jail card. If you do something amazing tomorrow, I'm ignoring what you did. But I thought Hobbs looked like he was at a new level indoors. And then he's going to bridge the gap between these 800 guys, and then he loses to Ngus at 800. Now, Ngus is
He was more aggressive than Ngus. Ngus was perfectly aggressive, but in the first lap, like Hobbs made more of an effort to go with those guys.
So I don't think Arop can contend. If he wins this race, God bless him. I mean, that's incredible. I guess I would expect.
We got a question. How will you feel if Hobbs beats Hawker or Ngus tomorrow? If he beats Hawker.
If Hobbs beats any of them, it's big. He's 0-10 against these guys. So
I guess by default it is. If he beats Cole Hawker is clearly not in peak form. So if he beats Cole Hawker, I'm kind of like,
you're beating the Olympic champion. It's still significant to me.
I know, but if he beats Ngus, I'll be impressed. Because Yard's been in good form in these meets.
So I guess who do you think is most likely to win it?
I'm gonna pick Yard.
And if he wins it,
because he got third, he's got the motivation for the $100,000.
He wins, he's probably winning $100,000 because Rob would have to beat one of the big three to get third. That would be fascinating if they both do it. If A-Rob gets third and then has to get 50,000, that's BS. If they tie in points, they should split.
Then it goes by total margin of victory, right?
Bogus. Split the damn money. Split the money.
You think
in that event
no
group,
one's gonna win by a second tomorrow? A-Rob will get it on a points tie.
Oh, you're right. I honestly feel like the 800 guy deserves it.
I suppose. He killed everyone, so
he'll have to beat an Olympic medalist to get top three. Kessler did not have to beat an Olympic medalist. I mean, New York did not have to.
Fair enough.
I'm very interested in the women's 800. As bad as Mary Morale looked today, as bad as Nia Akins looked today, and Addie Wiley, I still think that I expect them, honestly, to go 1, 2, 3.
But Mary Morale in these meets, I've just been disappointed.
She won the last 8.
That's good. We've seen her win 800. This whole thing's about doubling. Well, look at Marco Arop. He's going out there in the 1500s.
Well, if they had a 4 800 group, she'd be fine.
She'd be awesome.
So don't blame her. Blame Michael Johnson.
That's a good point.
So, Rose Runner, one of our best live viewers. Hobbs will be more tired tomorrow. Positive sport in the 800, especially his first outdoor race. This is
maybe.
We got people in different phases in the season. Now, Ross, I know your friend does not want to be identified, but we could hand the mic to him or her or they. How do you identify? And then anything we missed in the show, like, do you have any comments? You can be off camera, but we can have you comment. Do you have any big takeaways? If you have a big takeaway, put your thumb up and I'll hand you the mic. The person behind the counter, like in Wizard of Oz. Okay, this person is a Supporters Club member. That's all I'll say. If you recognize her, or should we gobble I don't have the voice changer.
So great day. Is definitely best meet so far. I think that my biggest kind of overall note for Grand Slam is that I think that the sort of visual presentation, the audience experience isn't really very different from a normal track meet. And you would think the way they were marketing it heading up to all this, that they would have had a lot of ideas there. So I would like to see a lot more creativity in that regard, whether that's letting spectators onto the infield, having people like, the Kentucky Derby or something, be able to get drinks, have music, have intro walk-up music, that kind of a thing. We were talking earlier that a lot of the best meets that we've been to in terms of atmosphere have been indoors. Is it worth considering maybe some kind of indoor meets even out of season where you can do more with lighting, with music? It's a smaller stadium, or smaller arena, so there's going to be more kind of crowd noise action. I'd like to see them think more about that going forward, and about the live experience as well. But overall, big improvements from the first couple meets. So pleased to see the trajectory.
Yet another person asking for new marketing of the sport, but yet not having them in his own head, because it's impossible to come up with nice. I actually like that, though. I almost said his first name by mistake.
The people on the infield.
We should have these meets indoors. There's a thing called air conditioning in the year 2025. We have this meet in Boston We get New Balance on board as a sponsor. Everything could be run inside, except for the men's 2. Maybe the women's 2 might be tough. And the 100. So you run outside the stadium onto the street, and you have it outside, and they love to use their damn drone footage. I told the media guy that Jonathan Galt is not a fan of the drone footage. So my thing is just use the drones for the replays. I think they're trying to use the drone to not show there's no crowd in the end zone, but whatever. But yeah, I liked it. I felt like there was a buzz. I've a lot of track fans here. We had Let's Run listener from Iowa fly in, Ethiopia. Well, they're not living in Ethiopia anymore. Anyone in the chat?
I think getting people on the infield is a pretty low hanging fruit.
Well, okay, your daughters are 9 and 11, right?
Yeah.
What are they looking forward to? I mean, my son is 7, probably not really doesn't. I mean, he knows there's some track. I said, in the car here, I called him. I said, Mom, ask him if he knows any track fans, any track people. Guess who he said?
Sydney?
Usain Bolt. Because I have a picture of Usain Bolt in my office. I said, "Yep, the great." He's into like who's the greatest of all time. He's all into like
Sure.
Who's the best.
Yeah.
He's like practically becoming an Aaron Judge Yankees fan because I told him Aaron Judge is the best. And there's a guy named Ohtani, and he's like, "Well, who has the most money?" And I said, "Well, I think our other light went up." So, what were the girls looking forward to?
They definitely were looking forward to seeing Sydney. They kept asking me, "Is Sha'Carri here?" Leading up to the meet, they weren't. They know all the 15.
How do they know who Sydney is and Sha'Carri?
Because I've brainwashed them.
Okay.
So my girls, particularly my older daughter Heidi, they do enjoy watching track. They like Jakob a lot. So we're all members of the Church of Jakob in our house, and then they like our other guys, Cole, Yard, Josh Kerr. So they know those guys. The 1500's compelling even to children. So they were excited to see them. Like I said, Sydney. They're asking about Sha'Carri, but then it's like goes, no, Lyle's here. So the same sort of thing. I mean, I think they moved the meet at a good pace, right? So the kids were entertained. The music was being played. That was good. That kept them kind of like dancing and stuff. I think there should be more of an infield present with these meets, like our mystery co-host was saying.
Like field events? Are you talking about?
No, like people on. I do like a good high jump. I want to help your rich gambler with the high jump. I made some good high jump bets last year. But anyway, so recent podcast guest Clayton Murphy ran that really fun race, the 1,000, I believe, against Matthew Centrowitz, and people were lining the whole straightaway. I thought that was really cool. You could tell people were excited. I think they should do more stuff like that in addition to the traditional stuff.
But it might make it be hard for the fans to see on the backside of the Spectator.
Yeah, but do you think the people at the Kentucky Derby are totally locked in on the horse race? You know what I mean? It adds
the one time I went to the Preakness, everyone else I went to did not watch any of the horse races. I made sure I watched the Preakness. I'm a sports fan. All right, Supporters Club members, we love you. We weren't late for you because you're getting this as a podcast. Everybody, for the live viewers, if you actually were on the website at 10 o'clock, you're a true track and field fan, and that means you should join the Supporters Club. So join today, and I'll buy you a beer if you're a Supporters Club member. Did I buy you a beer? True or false?
You bought me a beer.
And the guy in the corner, I did as well. All right. Until Tokyo.
Until tomorrow.
No, tomorrow.
Day 2, doubling.
I thought we were going live from the stadium. I brought my Starlink satellite in case there was no internet. The internet here, I thought my internet was amazing. It looks amazing to us, does it not?
It's working.
I checked it on my cell phone. I didn't bother to log into the hotel Wi-Fi because it's wow, they've got 200 megabytes per second upload on my cell phone, but apparently Jonathan Galt does not approve. Paris Saint-Germain, we love you.
Was the match today?
5-0.
Oh wow.
Wait, did Indiana?
I'm so locked into Grand Slam track. I don't know.
Have the Indiana Pacers won?
Yes.
The Indiana Pacers.
Go Pacers. Go Pacers.
Breaking.
I ran for Pacer Track Club, the first track club I was ever a member of. So I have an affinity for the Indiana.
I'm trying to think who has the most to lose tomorrow. Let me think about it. Bednarek's going to. Let's just think about this. Bednarek's going to win the 100. Melissa Jefferson's going to win the 100. So that's the thing. We know a lot of these races are not competitive. That was one other. If you're going to vote for
Who
negative,
was the most? Grant Fisher.
just we didn't talk about Grant Fisher. Grant Fisher, Nico Young, Grant Blanks. I think Nico Young has the most to win tomorrow. If he takes down Fisher, there's no excuses in this one. This is a guy that's a 10K guy. Well, they're both 10, I guess they're both similar, right?
Yeah, but he ran that fast mile. Like it
That's what I'm
wouldn't be shocking.
Oh wow.
It'd be surprising.
It would.
It would be surprising.
Wow. Rose Runner with the post of the night. When you hear Rose Runner, don't you think of that as a woman? I like to have women like listeners. Oh, Rose Runner's a man, apparently.
Rosie Ruiz.
Rose Runner, where do you live, Rose Runner? Hawker wins an Olympic gold for Indy, and now the Pacers will win a championship for Indy. I don't think the Pacers are going to beat Oklahoma City, but it all.
I didn't think Cole Hawker was going to win either.
That's true.
Some people did. Nick Willis did.
Nick, if you're listening, I was telling these guys how much money I thought that Hobbs Custer made out of high school. You probably know it. Did he, the moment he signed his pro deal out of high school, did he make more money than you did your whole career? I assume definitely way more, but do you feel bad about that? You've got 2 Olympic medals. He's got twice as much income as you. As I tell my son, life's not fair. Life's not fair. Rose Runner lives in Indy.
All right.
That's the only reason why.
Congratulations.
That's the only reason why they're a Cole Hawker fan. I'm a fan of all American greatness. Until next time.